gentlemen, this is Tanklebear, Colbert Tech Repair. We get everything tech news, gaming, and nerd related, and it is Friday, and you know what that means? It's time for some tech news. So let's get started with Bitcoins. Now, you can now donate Bitcoins to politicians. According to the FEC, which is the Federal Election Commission, you can now donate Bitcoins to politicians. However, the limit will be up to $100. Now, there is a problem with this. Because Bitcoins are not trackable, what's stopping somebody from donating $100 multiple times over several different names? So you cannot track Bitcoins. So this could get out of hand very, very quickly. As you know, people say Bitcoins are used for illegal drugs and blah, blah, blah. Well, yes, some of that is true, but for the most part, it's used just for trades over the internet. A statement from the FCC's chairman said that the situation was more than nuanced. 3 months after the group asked for the opinion, the commission lacked 4 votes to provide advice regarding how to use Bitcoins. But they are going to allow $100 limits under the federal election rules or a in-kind contribution. The rules have higher value limits for in-kind contributions, such as works of art, securities, and silver. But like I said, you cannot track Bitcoin, so what's stopping somebody from making several accounts and donating to a electee and trying to get them more votes, because more money equals more power? Apple is looking to potentially buy Beats Electronics for $3.2 billion. Now, Apple is in talks with Beats, which could be Apple's largest ever acquisition. The deal could be announced as soon as next week, and according to reports which cited people familiar with negotiations, though the talks could also fall apart, they cautioned. Beats makes a popular line of headphones, as you might know, which recently launched a streaming service, and the company was founded by Dr. Dre. Now, should the deal go through, it would mark a major new content and hardware push for CEO Tim Cook. Apple was known to be wary of big acquisitions under Steve Jobs, but with the new CEO, he's looking to buy some companies. Apple and Beats did not immediately respond to requests for comments from PCWorld.com, but Beats Music could provide Apple with an improvised or alternate version of its own streaming service, iTunes. So we might see Beats integrated with iTunes, or we might start seeing the Beats logo all over iPhones and Apple products. Oh boy, that's all we need. But Apple might buy Beats, and we'll see where that goes. DDR4 memory for desktops is expected to arrive in the third quarter of this year. Now, Crucial expects to ship some new DDR4 memory to both servers and desktops around the same time in the third quarter. Now, new DDR memory is usually shipped first for servers and then for desktops, but that trend will change for DDR4, which has been under development for more than 5 years. PCs will be faster and more power efficient with DDR4, which provides a 50% more memory bandwidth than DDR3 and 35% more power savings. We expect DDR4 adoption will take place. The parts, the boards, the accessories will be there for the customers. Motherboard makers have also been stepping up to add DDR4 support. Now, graphically intense games and high-end server applications are bandwidth sensitive, and DDR4 memory will make computers more responsive. As you get more cores and higher clock frequencies, it's all about bandwidth, and DDR4 is going to be in high-end servers and high-end PCs. Now, Crucial's DDR4 DIMM shipments will come when Intel ships chips that support the new memory, and Intel has added DDR4 support to server and enthusiast desktop processors, and Crucial's DDR4 DIMMs will plug into those systems. Now, Intel's upcoming 8 to 16 core Haswell-based Core Extreme Edition processors and Xenon server chips, codenamed Grantley, will be DDR4 compatible. Now, as with DDR2 and DDR3, you can assume that the initial DDR4 DIMMs could be priced at a premium. Crucial has shipped DDR4 modules for testing to motherboard makers and system builders. The modules include RDIMM, which is registered dual inline memory, and error correction for servers, and UDIMM, which is unbuffered, which doesn't have error correction for desktops. Crucial is sampling 4, 8, and 16 gigs RDIMM modules and 8 gig UDIMM modules. The modules draw 1.2 volts of power, which that's actually quite a bit less, considering if you overclock RAM to 2400 megahertz on DDR3, you're looking at about 1.6 volts. So the DDR4 bus clock speed tops out at 3200 megahertz, which right now, like I said, is 2400 for DDR3, and DDR4 also has more features to prevent data errors. So we are finally going to get some faster memory for most people won't need it, but for people who do video rendering like I do, video editing, gaming, server, stuff like that, you will, the faster memory you can get, the better, pretty much. So I really hope this comes out soon, and I hope it doesn't just shoot up in price, which I'm sure it will because it's memory, but let's hope for the best. Now, Intel has unveiled the Z97 chipset along with ASUS's motherboards. Now, on the TechReport.com, they reviewed the Asus Z97-A motherboard, and you can see in the picture here, it's actually a very nice looking motherboard. They took the square heatsink off and put a round heatsink, and they used a much less gaudy gold color, and it looks almost like pewter and silver. Now, the mid-range model, which this is selling online for $150, and it's loaded with enthusiast-friendly goodies. And you can see there's a chiseled metal covering around the socket. The heat sinks are only about 1 inch tall, so they shouldn't interfere with large CPU coolers. Their close proximity to the mounting holes, which are right here, as you can see, makes it will make it a little harder to mount said heat sinks. This has a full suite of expansion slots, which include dual PCIe X16 connectors linked to the CPU. The processor's 16 Gen 3 PCI lanes can be devoted solely to the first slot or split evenly between the first and second. I actually still use these PCI slots for wireless cards and old sound cards, so they are still used. The Z97A serves up a third PCIe 16 slot tied to the chipset, which you can see here, 1, 2, 3. Now, like the Z87 chipset before, the Z97 supports up to 6 gigabit per second SATA drives or devices. 2 ports are shared with the SATA E controller, and the rest sit to the left. All the usual RAID flavors are supported, and trim works for SSDs configured on RAID 0. Z97A also comes with other software plus a firmware interface that increasingly resembles a full-blown Windows UI. So all in all, it looks like a pretty nice motherboard. I really like the new design. It looks a lot more modern than all the squares you're used to seeing in computers nowadays. But like I said, I'm an AMD guy, so I'm still waiting for the next generation of the 990 chipset and see where that will go. But on to our last bit of news. In some gaming news, Epic has announced a new Unreal Tournament title. This is courtesy of MaximumPC.com. Epic Games is trying to out a little something different in the upcoming Unreal Tournament title, which is confirmed and now under development. In an attempt to do something radical, Epic Games is making the game in the open, meaning you can get a front row seat and a voice as more lines of code get added. But wait, there's more. When it's all said and finished, the new Unreal Tournament title will be free. We'll give you just a moment to let that sink in. Free. Now, Epic Games assembled a small team of UT veterans to work on the project as development progresses, and they'll use forums or discussions and Twitch to broadcast regular updates. Every single line of code that's written will also be available to Unreal Engine 4 developers on GitHub, and the game will be powered by Unreal Engine 4. Now, it might take several months until the project is finished, but when it's complete, it will be free. Not just free to play, just free. Over time, Epic Games will create a marketplace where developers, modders, artists, and gamers can give away, buy, and sell models and content. Earnings from the marketplace will be split between developers and Epic, which is how it plans to pay for the game. So, all in all, this seems like a pretty good deal. Alright guys, this has been Colbert Tech Repair with today's tech news. If you liked, give it a like. If you didn't, feel free to give it a dislike. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section down below. If you haven't yet, please check out my Patreon campaign. It will really help out the channel. The link's down in the description. You can find me here on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at TenkoBear92, and find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Colbert Tech Repair. See you guys next time.